I've consistently made over $60,000 per month in commissions as a sales rep, holding over a 90% close rate. And I didn't get there by just shoveling reframe after reframe at my prospects or slashing the investment at the first sign of resistance. The real secret is I mastered the discovery process. And what's crazy is when you get the discovery right, objection handling takes care of itself because they're two sides of the same coin. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Christian Polk. My discovery process is an accumulation of over 7,000 sales calls and over $50,000 in high ticket sales coaching, okay, that I spent on myself. And it's gotten me to over $8 million in closed deals, and it's what I'm giving away to you for free. So I'm gonna break down the structure, the key questions, the actual psychology behind it, and show you in real life sales calls how it actually works so you can start running discovery like a top 1% closer. Let's go ahead, let's get into it. So let's go ahead, let's dive into the structure. Got the iPad here. And just so you understand, like this sales structure works for B2B, B2C. It doesn't matter what you sell, this will work for you. And if you are curious of where I am, I'm on my balcony here in Vietnam, wanted to get out in the sun, get a little bit of fresh air. So hopefully the noise isn't too bad, okay? So this is the same exact structure that I've taught to hundreds of people at this point, like Nathan here, who's 18 years old and who makes $20,000 per month. We got Jax here, who sells a B2B offer, and he makes $63,000 per month. Australian dollars, it's about $45,000 USD. And then we have Nitesh here, who sells a B2C offer, making $98,000 per month in straight commissions, all using the exact same process. And it's not that this process or this structure is magical. It's actually understanding the psychology behind it and utilizing the psychology to every single person that you're talking to. Because the process as a whole, it's gonna be fairly straightforward. There are some advanced sales techniques in there. We'll definitely get into that. But the key thing we need to understand, like as we're going through the process, is we need to understand the why behind it, the actual psychology behind it. Now, before we get to any part of the sales process, we need to understand like what our actual mentality is on the sales call, okay? Because mentality, like how you show up, is super important. I don't know if I spelled that right. I didn't get into sales because I could spell. So we have to understand what the mentality is. Like how are we actually showing up to the sales call to make sure that our discovery goes the way that we need it to go. So one of the biggest things that is going to be important that you have when you are selling somebody is you need to be an authority. Okay? Why do we need to be an authority? Because human beings are naturally willing to give away what they believe, their compliance, whatever it is. They're naturally willing to just follow authority. And when we're talking about being an authority, there's a couple different things that we can do on our end to make sure we're showing ourselves as an authority. Number one is we look the part. Okay, so we actually look like an authority. Number two, we sound like one, okay? So looking and sounding like an authority is what's going to give you the biggest leg up when it comes to running any sales process. Not even the sales process here, any sales process. So when you're talking about what does looking like an authority actually look like, it depends on what you sell. If you sell a fitness offer, you might look more like somebody who does fitness training. You might need to wear tighter clothes, fitness attire, whatever it is. If you're selling something that's like investments, you probably should put on a fucking collared shirt, right? Look the part. That's the biggest thing. And then also we need to sound authoritative. How do we sound authoritative? The biggest thing when it comes to sounding authoritative is talking with your diaphragm. So actually like speaking up, using your voice, okay? So good voice and being comfortable, okay? Comfort. Like actually sounding comfortable. Because if you sound frantic in any way, this is gonna cut to your authority. Okay, that's the biggest thing. People who are authorities, people who are talking about things that they're very knowledgeable about, they're very comfortable talking about that shit. So you need to be knowledgeable, talking about the shit that you're talking about the sales process, because people are not going to buy from somebody who they view as lower than them. And we'll get into exactly tactically how you do that. But this authority piece is going to tie into the entire sales process. Okay, so understand one of the key elements is going to be authority on the sales conversation. Now, what is authority not? It is not domineering. Okay, you're not just smacking people around for the sake of it. People who are authorities are not just domineering and trying to dominate people. They're very competent people. So how do we come across confident? Again, look and sound competent. It's really that simple. It's not easy, but it is simple, right? Don't overcomplicate it for yourself. You'll just make it harder, okay? Now, that is the basics. You can go into a lot more when it comes to mentality, but that is the basics of how do you actually make sure you're showing up on the sales call better. Also, when we're talking about the look of things, just make sure your setup is good. Okay, setup is good. Have a mic. Again, I'm outside right now, but generally speaking, I have like a ring light. I have some softbox lights, different things on those lines. I wanted to switch it up for this YouTube video, get outside a little bit. I want to sweat my ass off here in the humidity of Vietnam. Like, I just wanted to do that. I'm doing this for you guys. But you want to make sure you have a nice setup, nice ring light, nice camera, nice mic. Make sure they're able to hear you. These things are going to help you a lot. And then just make sure your background looks good too. Don't look like you're selling out of your mom's basement. If you do these things, you're above 90% of salespeople. I promise you, I review a ton of fucking calls. You would be surprised on how many people actually just miss out on this little piece, because you can literally say gibberish in your sales process, but if you get this down, you'll at least close some people, right? You'll close some people just by looking the part, sounding the part, and having a good setup. Now, once we actually have that down, then let's go down to the actual process. Now that we look the part, we sound the part, how do we actually convey ourselves in a sales conversation to make sure we are closing as many people as possible? So I'll run through the entire sales process, and then I'll give examples. I'll actually show call examples, real life sales calls, or I'll show role play examples. I'll make sure I switch it up just so you can see a bunch of different examples, because depending on what you're selling, again, the structure is going to be the same, but what you actually say is going to vary widely. So if we look here, we have the opening, situation, problem. Okay, let me scroll here. Then we have understanding buying decisions, future pacing, and then consequence, and then presentation. So that's like the overall sales structure as a whole. And the way you got to think about a sales structure is you got to think about it like it's a funnel. Okay, you start off very broad, but the further along you go, the more narrow and narrow the conversation gets, to just make sure we're on point of where we need to be to get this person to actually do something that is uncharacteristic, which is invest in themselves, because more likely than not, they haven't invested in themselves before, okay? Now, the biggest lesson that I've learned from one of my mentors, Matt Ryder, is you have to have the conversation you're having, not the conversation you want to have. This cannot be too rigid. If you are too rigid, you're not going to have a fun time, right? You're going to have a frowny face. Or a mad face, okay? You're not gonna have a fun time here. So we need to just make sure we're having the conversation we're having, not the conversation we wanna have. So how do we make sure we're having the conversation that we're having? Is we always need to use their words. So using their words is very, very key. And this is not just something that you use in part of the sales process. This is something you use during the entire sales process. Because understand, people like people who are like them, right? Believe it or not. For example, like most of the people who like work with me, like I do work with like women and stuff like that, but overwhelming majority of people who work with me are like young dudes, right? Like I'm a young dude, they can relate to me. People like people who look like them, people like people who sound like them. So using their words is a very, very easy way to sound the way that they sound. And it makes them feel heard, and it makes them feel understood. And it's not, you can't use your own words, because as a salesperson, everything you say equals garbage, but everything they say equals gospel. So you might even be saying the same things in your mind, right? Like let's just say, for example, they said something like stress. Like it's very stressful, but you describe it as frustrated. Frustrated, right? Even though you might think you're meaning the same thing, they might not view the word frustrating the way that you view frustrating. And you might not view the way they mean stress the way they mean stress. So to not fall into this, if they use stress, if they use an emotional word, you just go ahead and you use it. And you tie this into your conversation. And at the very beginning of the conversation, you start very broad. And that way you can understand what their words are, why they're actually here, and then through your questioning, you're narrowing what you guys talk about. At the very beginning, it's super, super broad, like, hey, what made you book in, right? Super broad, super open. But when we get to the very end, in consequence, it's very, very narrow. Well, what happens if 6 months from now, you're not able to actually tell your wife that she can no longer work and you're making the type of money you want to be making? That's a very narrow conversation. That's a very narrow question. So the further along you go in the sales process, the less likely that you're going to be able to use what I would call cookie cutter questions. At the very beginning, you're going to use basically the same questions every single time. But towards, like, as you go along, the less you can do that, the more custom it's going to need to be. The more customized you're going to need to be to your actual prospect. So keep that in mind. Okay, now that we have the groundwork, let's talk about the actual fucking process, okay? So first things first is the opening of the conversation. Now, there's tons of different ways you can label it: connecting, opening, intro, whatever it is, same fucking thing, okay? So what are we actually looking for? So what do we need out of the conversation? We need to know, why are they here? What is this person looking for? Every single person you hop on a sales call with, they have a need that is not being met to the degree that they want that need to be met. And just depending on the type of people you're selling, those needs might be a little bit different. And I can understand, I talk to people who sell more affluent people, for example, and they think affluent people just don't have needs. That can't be further from the truth. It's just that affluent people have different needs than broke people. So if we look here, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Human needs, this is, we really orient ourselves in a hierarchy. In order for us to go higher up on the hierarchy, our baseline needs need to be met. For example, you need to have air, food, and water before you can be thinking about employment, right? If you can't eat, you're not going to be thinking about working, right? Next, right, you need to have employment before you can really start to think about a sense of connection, having an intimate partner. You know, some people might flip that, you know, broke guys chilling with girls. But generally speaking, this is how it goes. And then once we have like intimacy, a sense of belonging, that's when we can really start to think about respect, recognition, self-esteem. And then at the very top, we have self-actualization. I would say 99% of the time, you're never actually going to be talking to somebody who's trying to reach self-actualization. Very, very rare. Some people will feel like they are, but once you actually dig beneath the surface, not really the case. So you really need to understand the type of person you're talking to, what type of need is being met. So broke people, they're down here. Okay, this is very obvious. It's very obvious what their pain is. It's very obvious what their needs are. But richer people, they tend to be up here. Less obvious, okay? So less so. It doesn't mean it's less important. When you're talking about pain, when you're talking about needs, it's all relative. It's all fucking relative. I can talk to somebody like Jeff Bezos, and he makes however many billions of dollars per year. If he then, like, something happened and he only made $100 million in a year, he would be in considerable amount of pain. Why? Because it's all fucking relative. Versus you sitting there or me sitting here, right? I'm not making 100 million per year. If I made 100 million per year, I would be in such joy. And I can think about this for myself. When I first started sales, making 20,000 per month, I thought, like, this is going to solve all my fucking problems. Now, if I made 20,000 per month, I'm probably going to have a fucking panic attack. I'll throw myself off the, I probably shouldn't say that, right? Probably not YouTube friendly, but I want to have a good time if I'm making 20,000 per month. So this is the biggest thing you have to understand. Every single person you're talking to has a need that hasn't been met, okay? So whatever they're looking for equals that's what they don't have, and that's going to equal pain. And again, pain is relative. It depends on who you're talking to. So everyone you talk to has some level of pain, or they want to be on the call. People who are content with their life, they do not hop on sales calls. Believe it or not, they really do not hop on sales calls. Turn up the God, it's dark all of a sudden. Right? So understand, people who are happy, they're content, they don't hop on sales calls. Now, the biggest thing when it comes to the entire conversation, but especially the opening part of the conversation, is we need to keep it conversational. We need to get the focus off of us and get it onto the prospect. If the focus is on us as a salesperson, again, they're just going to ask us questions about the product. We just want to go into pitch mode without us actually having the leverage of what is going on. Really, this entire process is about getting the most amount of leverage you can to go ahead and get somebody to do an uncharacteristic thing, which is take action on a product that they've been pushing off, most likely, okay? So you need to get the focus off of us, put it on them, right? Very first thing. Now, you don't want to assume anything, especially very early on in the conversation. Type A, people who are a little bit more disagreeable, if we assume, then we're going to get into disagreement with these types of people. They're going to find reasons to disagree with you. Well, it's not quite that, or no, I don't really have problems, or just a bunch of bullshit. So you can't assume. So, and what we really need to do is we need to get an overarching goal or a problem, okay? They have a need that needs to be met, that isn't being met the way that they want. What is the overarching goal of the problem? Why the fuck are they here? That is the main thing we're looking for right now. Okay, now in terms of how do we actually get like why they're here, the tone that we need to have, it needs to be very open and very curious. Let me erase that. It needs to be very curious. Now, why does it need to be open and curious? Again, I want to be open to get them to be open, actually give across the feeling that like, hey, I want to fucking be here, right? If like you're coming across like you don't even want to be here, the likelihood that they're going to open up to you is jack shit. And we need to be curious. We need to really subconsciously tell them that I'm not just another salesperson. A lot of this comes down to they've hopped on a lot of sales calls, and if we trigger the resistance, the sales resistance of you just being another salesperson, they're just going to put you in a salesperson box, which means they're not going to open up to you. You're not going to have a good conversation. Being curious really subconsciously tells them like, hey, I actually want to know what's going on. Okay, now how do you be curious? I have a tone video that goes in a lot more depth on that, but it's just like, look curious, sound curious, use curious words, okay? That's the biggest thing when it comes to being curious. So you're going to say something like, hey, what made you want to go and book in the call today? So it looks like you booked in about possibly getting help with XYZ. Okay, just so we're on the same page, like what exactly made you want to go ahead and book in the call today? That's generally speaking how I'm going to open every single call. It doesn't matter what I'm selling. Hey, what made you want to go ahead and book in the call today? Now, if you book the call, you might be a little bit different. Like, hey, what made you want to look into this further? Right? Same thing. Like, hey, what made you interested? What made you book on a call? Something very, very open, like we said before. Okay, I'm keeping it open at the very beginning. Right? And then I'm going to chunk down. So, what had you book on a call? It's very open, right? And then from there, I'm like, okay, do you know what type of help you're actually looking for? Or what has you looking for that? Whatever it is. So I just want to get a little bit more specific on, I want to understand why they're here. So get the focus off of me, put them on them, and then get a goal or a problem. So I'm going to ask, hey, what type of help are you looking for? Or I can ask, hey, what's the biggest thing you'd want to change or improve about your situation? Or I can ask, hey, what are you seeing right now in your situation that would have you looking for whatever it is you're selling? Whatever it is, you just need to get a problem. Now, when it comes to hooks and frames and agendas, right? Agendas is something that you can have very early on in the conversation, but the way that I would say is they're like training wheels. It's fantastic to start, but it limits your speed. So you want to keep it basic with your agenda, and you don't want to have any hard agendas. The biggest thing you're fighting right now at the very beginning of the conversation is sales resistance and getting them to be open. So if you use hard agendas, which is like you're setting like how the conversation is going to go. If we set it like very hard, like, hey, I don't do yeses or no, or I don't do maybes, only yes or no. So, will you decide at the end of the call? Like something like that. It's going to make it to where they're much more resistant to what you're saying, and they're much more resistant to having the conversation with you. So I don't want to make things resistant. If I'm going to have an agenda, I'm going to be very open with an agenda. Something super basic like this. It's like, okay. And so the first part of this call, it's pretty basic. It's just really for us to understand like where you're at now versus where you'd want to be. Now, again, you want to customize that. You don't want to just be basic. Like where you're at now in terms of like, where you're at with your sales versus where you want to be, just so we can create a custom game plan for you and then go over possible next steps. Do you think something like that would help you? And then, yeah, so it's like, hey, the first part of this call is to understand where you are now versus where you want to be to create custom game plan to go over possible next steps. So you need to understand their situation to create a custom game plan. It makes sense why you're having this conversation. But the downsides to agendas is it makes it very obvious you're in a sales conversation. You don't want to make things very obvious you're having a sales conversation. This is going to trigger sales resistance. No bueno, okay? So this is what we want to go ahead and do. Now, something that you can also do is identity hooking and identity framing. This is something that I would only do if you have the process down. So what is identity hooking and identity framing? Very early on in the conversation, I'm going to give them or place and label and get them to adopt an identity that overall is going to help me make the sale, but also help them get better results. So for example, you can say something like this. Like, oh, I love working with people who are in that transition phase from going from a 9 to 5 to becoming their own business owner. Influencer always says the people are going from order takers to action takers. It's a bit more risky, but I promise it's worth it. So what am I doing? I'm saying they're in a transition from being an order taker and they want to become an action taker, right? Like I'm putting the identity on them. Now, I need to make it in a way that is very easy for them to agree to it. So if you make it harder to agree, you're not going to have people buy in. You just need to make it very, very easy to go ahead and agree with. So overarching goal, again, get the focus off of me, put it on them. Okay. Why are they fucking here? Why are you here? Overarching goal or problem, eliminate sales resistance. That's what we need to do in the opening. Okay. Let's go over an actual example from a real life sales call and I'll show you how it's done.
Yeah, let me go ahead and get my camera on, get everything all figured out here. All right. We can definitely dive into everything. So I know because it looks like you booked in here pretty recently, possibly, getting some help with your sales, making more commissions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, perfect, man. Just so we're on the same page with everything, like I guess like what attracted your attention to begin with?
Actually, it was just the IG post that I kept seeing. I was like, oh, this is good stuff, actually, So
Okay.
and it was pretty consistent. It wasn't cheesy, gimmicky. I'm like, all right, so I think it's something that actually was interesting. I was like, yeah, I'll look into it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, man. Right. So as far as any potential training or anything would go, do you know what you'd be looking for?
No. So not yet necessarily. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation more about it.
Yeah, no worries. Right. So because like we help with quite a few different things. So like for you, like I guess like what would you maybe like in the way that you are going about your selling process, would you want to maybe change or improve?
Really, like what it is, it's where my biggest area of opportunity to increase for myself is the phoning, getting on the phones and just booking that meeting right then and there.
Okay. Yeah.
That part. Like once I get in a meeting with somebody, I have a pretty good closing rate and all that. That part's not a problem. It's just the phone part. I just hate it.
Like getting them actually there.
Yeah. But once I'm there.
All right, next thing we have situation. So now that we know that they're here, we don't just want to dive right into problem. Why? Because we don't have enough information. And if we just assume the very first thing that they told us is the actual core root of the problem, a lot of times we're going to be misaligned of what's actually going on. So we need to understand a bit more about their situation. Now, we only need to know their situation around the current problem that you are actually solving. You don't need to know much more than that. Now, there might need to be some qualifying stuff or things you need to know, but generally speaking, the situation phase is going to be pretty basic, and we want to be very straightforward. Want to be very straightforward and curious. Now, why do we want to be straightforward? Is we do not want to go down fucking rabbit holes. Okay? Opening should take a minute, 2 minutes. Situation should take a minute, 2 minutes. We do not need to get bogged down in the fucking details. You do not need to know every single thing about their situation. Just enough about their situation to really be able to dive into the problem. You can get lost here. Okay? It needs to be more straightforward. You do not allow them to ramble. You need to use proper interrupting, interjecting to keep people on focus. Understand, people think by talking. If they ramble a lot, they're thinking like a rambling buffoon. And if thinking like a rambling buffoon, they're not going to be able to make a decision at the end of the call. And the longer your call goes on for, the higher likelihood that you are going to get to think about an objection. So you want to keep your discoveries at the very most, 30 minutes or under. Ideally, 20 to 25 minutes or even lower than that, but at the very most 30 minutes. If you're going longer than 30 minutes, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. Okay, so what do we need to know in this situation? So we just need to understand a little bit more insight on their problem. So very common, and again, it's just gonna be based off of what exactly you sell. You're gonna need to know different information, but just generally speaking, what are they currently doing now to solve their problem? How long have they been doing that? And then what caused them to go that route? Basically it. If they're doing sales training, hey, what are you doing now to get better at sales? Or hey, what sales process are you using now? How long you've been doing that? What caused you to go down that route? Simple. Marketing. You probably need to know a little bit more information. Like, hey, what are you doing to get more leads right now? Or what are you doing for marketing right now? How long have you been doing that? How many leads are you getting per month right now? How many deals do you feel like how many deals are you getting from that? How much is the average deal worth to you? Right? You probably need to know a little bit more information just depending on what you sell. But situation, pretty basic, pretty straightforward. You just need to know the requisite information behind their actual problem, behind their overarching goal. That way you can dive into problem better. Okay? So let's go over an example of situation. It's going to be pretty quick. Let's dive into it.
Well, do you have like a script or like a process you're following about the outbound?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how long have you been doing that for?
Using this script. So I've been tailoring and tweaking it because the original one was just what they gave us and I hated it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I sound like a robot. It's not me. Right. So I've been changing a little bit more to myself, but even then I still don't like, it's not what I want to use. It's not like, I'm still getting a decent amount of people that'll no show this kind of deal. So I'm like, all right, you know what? And I get it. It's a numbers game no matter what. If I can increase it even by 5-10%.
Right.
You know, that's already going to help me week over week because I just want to get more people on the books. That's it. If I get
I get it, man.
I'm set. Yeah.
Yeah. So like maybe let's dive into like the numbers. Because currently at the moment, like how many leads, let's say on a typical week, like are you getting in?
So no. So okay, so I gotta go after the leads. They don't get like sent to me. I have to go and get them, right? My goal is 20 a week. Yeah.
So maybe help me. Like, is it like a cold calling or?
Not necessarily, no. So a lot of it is warm, but that problem is the cold calling. When it's a warm introduction, that's great because people know what to expect. They've already been recommended to me by somebody else. So those are the easy ones. I don't worry about those. Those I will get, you know. It's the cold ones that it's like,
well, like, and when I say cold, it's like they didn't put their information in like at all, and we're just calling them like out of blue versus like okay, so we're just calling them out of blue.
Yeah.
Because what do you sell like specifically, maybe so I can have a better understanding?
Yeah, so financial advisor. So I mean, so from that, a lot of it is wealth management, right? So portfolios and all that, but also life insurance, disability insurance, long-term.
Makes sense. So of those, like how many people are you reaching out to? Like let's say on a daily basis.
Well, because I hate it, I very minimal, but I see other guys here who are doing it well and it works out for them, right? So I mean, I'm doing like 10 a day of that.
Okay, so 10 a day. So we're talking like 50 a week.
Yeah.
Okay, and of those 50 a week, typically, like how many are you able to actually book in?
About 1 or 2. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that could be trouble.
All right, so this is when it starts to get fun. Right? We dive into problem. If I can get the screen to work. So understand something. You need pain. What creates urgency? Naturally, it's pain or fear of future pain. So you need to understand what their pain is and what in their life is telling them that they have this problem. So you need to understand problem versus symptoms. The pain is the symptoms. Stay on the needs that are not being met. Ask questions around those things that are not being met and how it affects them. If you get multiple needs, dig deeper to the more base needs before you get up the pyramid. So again, like that's what we're talking about with the pyramid stuff. Okay. So if we understand this, if they start talking about problems about like, hey, like I can't fucking eat and I don't have like as much confidence, I'm just going to focus on the fact that they can't eat rather than their self-esteem. Right? Because it's so much more fundamental. Like if they can't eat, like who fucking cares if they're not confident? They're gonna die, right? So they need their physiological needs like met first. So anytime you get like multiple needs or multiple problems, you always want to start lowest on the pyramid and move your way up, okay? And you're searching more for emotion. You want to see where the actual emotion is. Now, when it comes to the problem versus symptom, this is something you need to understand. So it is not the actual problem that causes the pain for people. It is the symptoms of that problem. Real easy example. If you're watching this and you're 500 pounds, right? Maybe there's one of you, okay? It's not the fact that you're 500 pounds that is causing all the pain. That is the problem. The problem is that person is 500 pounds, but the actual pain is all the symptoms that causes. For example, life is going to constantly tell that person that they're 500 pounds. When they're trying to walk upstairs, if they can walk upstairs, their knees are going to hurt. They're going to be sweating, right? They're going to have heart palpitations. Like life is going to constantly remind that person that they're 500 pounds. And it's those moments, those specific symptoms, that's where the pain is, right? Their back pain, whatever it is, that's where the pain is. That's where we need to get to through our questioning. Okay, so How we get there, it really depends on the type of offer that you have. So generally speaking, there are two types of offers. We got improvement offers and we got new opportunity offers. Some are a mixture of the two. Now, what are the difference? An improvement offer is you help somebody do better with what they're already doing. For example, I help salespeople. I do not help people get into sales. I don't want to work with those people, right? A lot of those people are donkeys. So I just help people who are already in sales get better at sales. I've worked with a couple of newbies, but you need to have the right mentality. Besides the point. So I do an improvement offer. You're already in sales. You want to get better at sales. I help you get better at sales. It's a very, very different process than if I were helping you get into sales, like get into high ticket sales. You've never done sales before in your life. That is a new opportunity. I'm getting you to do something you haven't done before. So understand, an improvement offer, you need to create doubt in their current method and make them admit that it's their fault. So if you hop on a call with me, then I'm going to get you to admit that you don't know jack shit about sales, and that's why you're bad at your job. It's because you're not doing what you need to do, the level that you need to do it. So for example, if you hop on the call with me, I'm going to have to get you to admit that you are not good at your job. Like how you're going about sales is not doing well. Then and only then can I solve your problem, because if it is not your fault, if it's your lead's fault, if it's the economy's fault, there's nothing I can do to actually help you in your sales process. Same thing with like marketing, right? If you help somebody get better at their marketing, if they're like, well, nobody in my industry can actually get leads, well, bro, you can't help them with their fucking marketing. Why? Because again, it's not their fault. And if it's not their fault, there's nothing you can do about it. So you need to get them to admit that it is their fault. It is their fault that's why they're here. Okay. And how do we get people to admit that it's their fault? Is we need to ask internal based questions. For example, this is a marketing question. So what do you feel like is maybe missing in the way that you're attracting leads, or maybe how you're nurturing them, that's causing your business to be stuck? Now, again, you want to repeat back what they said. You don't want to just insert causing your business to be stuck if they didn't say that. Okay, so if you noticed here, so what do you feel like is maybe missing, right? It's missing in what they're currently doing. There's something missing in what they're currently doing. And if they answer this question, they admit that they are the problem. So what is missing in the way that you're doing A or the way that you're doing B? Again, I'm going to give them options, right? A or B that's causing whatever problem that they just said that they had. And again, if they answer this question, they admit that they are the problem. That's the biggest thing, okay? You need to get them to admit they are the problem. Pro tip, if you're talking to A-type personalities, somebody who's a lot more disagreeable, get to the numbers quicker. People can't hide behind numbers. So if you come to me, you have a huge ego, but you're closing at 30%, we're going to talk about why are you closing at 30%. There's no way around that. Once we get to the numbers, you can't really hide behind the ego of like, no, bro, I'm really good at what I do. Well, motherfucker, you're closing at 30%, right? So it doesn't matter what you're selling. If you are dealing with A-type personalities, get to the numbers and then create and widen the gap and dig into the pain off of that. Okay, so new opportunity is going to be a little bit different. So with new opportunity, the current opportunity they're in, you can have them blame that all they want, even though it is external, right? It's outside of themselves. That you just need to get them to admit that their current opportunity, their job, whatever it is, that's what's causing the pain, right? Their current opportunity. So if you're selling somebody like, hey, how to become a wholesaler, right? Or you're selling somebody like how to be, how to get into AI agency or whatever it is, you need to get them to admit that their current situation, their current job, how they're making money right now, that is the fucking problem. Okay. If I get them to admit that, then you're golden. Now, with new opportunities, so much easier to get them to admit that they have a problem. Okay. Improvement offer. Okay, a little bit more difficult, not super hard, but it is a little bit more difficult. I will say with improvement offers, it's easier to sell somebody on the back end, right? Because they're already doing the thing versus a new opportunity offer. It's harder to sell somebody on the back end because they're not doing the thing, right? So each has their pluses and minuses. I've sold both, made a ton of money in both. You just got to understand the difference between the two, okay? So once we actually get the problem, because how you get the problem is going to be different depending on what you sell, how you probe is going to be basically exactly the same. Now, when we're talking about probing, again, customize it to what they said. All right, do not be a fucking robot, okay? That is the biggest thing that I can get across, is we need to keep it conversational. We need to customize it to what they said. We need our questions to actually be specific to the person that we're talking to. We need to be in the conversation. So when we first get the problem, the very first thing that we always want to do is we want to start broad. Why do we want to start broad? We just want to get them to expand on their problem. So when we start broad, they're going to tell you a problem, whether they're like, oh, I'm not making enough money, like in a biz op, or they're saying like, yeah, just right now, I don't know how to nurture leads. Whatever it is, whatever problem they tell you, you always want to expand on it, because people think by talking. If you get them to talk about it more, you're expanding the problem in their mind, number one. And number two, you're getting a lot more information to actually go off of. Okay. Now, when you are expanding, you're probing, you want to be a bit confused. Why? Because subconsciously, when somebody's confused, they don't understand you. You want to clarify yourself. You want to give more explanation. Oh, like, what do you mean by like you're not making enough money? I'm confused. Like, what's going on? I need to get them to expand, right? Once I get them to expand, they're going to give me more information. And off of that more information, I'm going to be able to dig deeper. Because when we're talking about problem, it really needs to, you need to get more of the specific moments like we were talking about. If somebody's 500 pounds, you're selling a fitness offer, what are the actual moments that they feel the pain? And then once you get those specific moments, then you need to understand how those specific moments are making them feel personally. How is it personally impacting them? That's the outcome that we're actually going for, okay? And during this whole thing, we want to be more curious, but we also need to be concerned at times. Why? Because if somebody's telling you like, dude, I have fucking cancer, you shouldn't just be like, oh, that's cool, and then like move on. We need to be concerned. When they're telling you problems, we need to actually come across like we're concerned. This will, number one, it'll amplify the pain. Number two, it'll build more trust, and that way they are just more open, okay? So once we start broad, we get them to expand more. Then again, we want to get those specific times, those specific moments. Again, this is going to be optional. A lot of this is just going to depend how the conversation is going. Always, always, always prioritize being conversational over all of this shit. If you sound like you're autistic, they're not going to buy for you. Maybe they will, but you're going to have a harder time, okay? So conversationality over everything. So easy examples. If they tell you a problem, you get them to expand. Hey, can you give me an example of that? Or is this all the time, or are there specific times it shows up more? If they're like, oh yeah, I just don't feel confident. Well, can you give me an example when that actually shows up for you? Are there specific times you don't feel confident, or is it just like all the time? Like, when does it show up the most for you? You not being confident, how is that showing up for you? Where is that showing up for you? You want to ask questions to get more of the specifics, okay? Then once we get the specifics, we might need to probe on things like, oh, like, what do you mean by that? Okay, how so, right? We might need to probe in on it. Again, like, this is not like a straitjacket. It's just kind of a guide. Then from there, we're going to explore the duration. We need to know how long, like how long have they had this problem? How long have they been trying to do something and it just hasn't been working? Why? Time frame expands pain and urgency, and it gives you much more leverage. For example, if somebody has been in pain for 2 days, they're like, oh, I just decided I need to make more money. 2 days, less leverage. Oh, I wanted to start a business for the past 10 years. Much more leverage, right? 10 years versus 2 days. Time frame, time frame, time frame. If you don't have the time frame, you don't have the leverage. And we're going to need leverage to pre-handle and shift beliefs, which is going to be next. That's why problem is so important. Okay? Then from there, we can quantify the pain. Now, again, depending on what you sell, quantifying might be a little bit different. How much money, how much time are they actually losing right now? So we want to turn their story into numbers, or their numbers into stories. We just want to expand it. We want to make it more real. If they are feeling like they're losing out on a bunch of time right now, how much time are they actually losing? Make it more real, make it more tangible. And them spending 70 hours per week at their job, what is that keeping them away from? Again, these are the questions we need to ask. If they're losing out on money, how much money are they losing out on? And what is that stopping them from doing that they'd want to do if they were making that money, okay? Then from there, again, we have our thing impact. So for example, let's just say like they didn't have time, and that is causing them to not be able to be there for their kids. What impact is that having on them, you not being able to be there for them? The thing impact. These questions are a little bit easier to answer because it's not directly at them. A lot of times when we're speaking to business owners, what impact is that having on the business, the people around you, your day-to-day, whatever it is? And then after we get that, that's when we get personal impact. This one is the death blow, right? Like, this is when we get the real deep feeling. We need that really deep feeling. I will say, if you're not good at what you do and you sound a bit autistic, right? Okay, skip this one. If you're autistic, okay, if tism, Okay. So if you can't actually conversationally ask this question, just skip it. Because if you do it in a way that comes across telegraphed, it'll do more harm than it does good. Okay. So starting off, you might need to skip the personal impact question. But once you get good at it, add the personal impact question in. It's going to help you a lot more. And then optional as well is going to be consequence. Generally speaking, I'm not going to use consequence that much. Fucking Christ. Holy shit. I think there's a firework behind me. So generally speaking, I'm not going to use consequence that much. It just depends. If I'm talking to somebody and their pain is mostly fear of future pain, they're not currently in pain right now, but they don't want pain in the future. For example, that's what a lot of insurance is. Like, I'm not dead right now, but I have insurance because I don't want my wife and my child to go through pain when I die. You know, when, not if, right? When you die. So in that situation, if I had talked to a salesperson, I just bought it from somebody I knew, they should have been asking more consequence questions. That is what would have really gotten me across the line of what are the consequences if I didn't get something in place and God forbid I died. That's why those are going to be most important. Okay, so we start broad, get specifics, explore duration, quantify the pain, thing impact, personal impact. Okay. If you have a bit of TISM, skip the personal impact. And personal impact, this is where you need to be the most concerned when you do ask this question. Like, hey man, I don't want to assume, but you dealing with A, B, and C, like, how does that actually feel on your end, right? You need to be the most concerned. It does something you need to be able to dial in, okay? So after that, after we probe into it, it's like, okay, so time to make a change then. And then we just need to get rid of the next best alternative, right? So that way you don't get the, oh, I'll just find another job, or, oh, I'll figure it out on my own. I need to get them to admit that that's not going to work. So example, besides A, B, and C, what's the main reason you're looking for hands-on help to lose the weight rather than just hope and pray you figure it out on your own? If you're ever lost in problem, just ask that question. It will be a good foundation for you to get back on track. Of like, hey, wherever you are, depends on what you sell. Why would you be looking for a current solution you have rather than next best alternative? Why would you be looking for hands-on help rather than just trying to figure it out on your own? Why would you be looking for actual coaching rather than just trying to do YouTube shit, right? Depends on what you sell, but this is a real easy way. If you ever get lost when you're digging into problem, that's where you go, okay? So understand, so we got the opening. So we got the opening, we got the situation, then we go into problem. And the reason why we go into problem first after we get situation and we don't go into goals is because it is much easier to talk to somebody about their problems, understand that the brain works to focus on the negative. If there's a tiger right here and I want $1 million, I'm still gonna focus on this fucking tiger. Because if I don't focus on the negative, I'm going to die. And this is something you can also think about for yourself. If you have a hard time actually understanding what you want out of life, what the goals are, anything along those lines, a simple, easy thing you can do is you can probably much easier come up with a list of the things that you don't want. So that's why we go through problem first. It's much easier to talk about what people don't want, what their problems are. And then once we get into future pace, their goals and really mapping it out, all it is a mirror of the problem. Okay, so let's actually dive into problem here. I'll give you an example where I had to work for it a bit on an improvement offer. Let's dive into it.
So we're on this new offer then, and we're getting combative answers. So what do you feel like you might be, I don't know, maybe like saying on your calls, or maybe something you're not saying, or it could even just be how you're coming across in your tone that's causing these prospects to really get combative and really not answer your questions.
I don't I don't really know. Like a lot of them, like they're from the
Yeah.
UK, and like I know the UK is like a more
Yeah.
skeptical demographic.
Yeah, but
Um,
again, like I've helped tons of people sell to people in the UK. So I
yeah.
guess what do you feel like you might be doing, or maybe it's something you're not doing, like who knows, that could be just causing them to give you more combative answers to the questions you're asking.
I don't know. Like they also come from like cold outreach. Like they're not coming from our paid
Uh-huh.
ads. So
Uh-huh.
like it's just cold email that's getting them booked in.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like a lot of the times it's like super super like cold. Like they don't even know what's going on.
Okay. And before you hopped on, like, was this offer being sold?
Yeah.
Okay. So it is sellable.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what do you feel like you're missing right now just with what you're doing that's preventing you from actually connecting with these people and just causing them to be combative?
I don't know. If it's like the way
Well,
of starting the conversation, or like I don't know.
uh, well, how are you starting the conversation?
Well, it's like I know in the like the CEO script, like he
Yeah.
starts it a bit differently because these guys are
Uh-huh.
like they're kind of jaded, where like they've hopped on a
Okay.
bunch of calls,
Yeah.
and I don't start it the same as him, so like maybe that could be causing
Well,
because like that's the
like what, walk me through, like what exactly do you say?
I kind of like just try to like build some rapport with them,
Uh-huh.
like a line I'll use just to get a laugh is
Yeah.
like you living the dream over there, still working on it, and like I know in like the CEO script, like he doesn't really have that,
Yeah.
and he has like, a couple different tactical questions in there.
Okay.
So
So,
yeah,
like, besides like the building rapport stuff, right? Like at the beginning, like, what do you feel like you're doing, like when you're asking these questions? Because typically, what type of questions are you asking that's getting the combative feedback? Like, what exact questions are you asking?
it's usually when I'm just like trying to find out like why they're there. It's like, oh, I just wanted to
Hmm.
see what you guys had, and it's like, okay,
Okay.
well, we were started on a back foot, or like I'll
Yeah.
ask like, what's the biggest challenge in your business, and it's
Uh,
like, I don't really have that many challenges. I just wanted to see what
yeah.
you guys did. Like, you guys reached out to me, so I
Okay.
want to see what you guys
Can,
did.
can I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
Especially if this is a demographic that typically does hop on call after call after call, asking a question like, hey, what's your biggest challenge? How many other sales reps do you feel like say something similar?
yeah, probably a good amount.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So what do you feel like that does in the prospect's mind, especially if they are jaded? If we hop on the call and we just sound like every other sales rep that they've talked to.
Yeah, they just like classify me
Right.
as like every other sales rep.
What does get put in that bucket? Do you want to be put in that bucket?
No, not really.
Why not?
Well, because they're like, I'm just gonna get treated like everyone else and get all this, like all the fucking pushback. So
Yeah. And you getting this pushback, because I don't want to assume, dude, because I'm not on your calls. Typically, what is this leading to at the end? You drop the price, what happens?
it was like sometimes I don't even get to the end. Like it's just like it gets so combative, like I don't even get to drop the price.
You
Like
can't
we just
even
have to hop
pitch?
off. Like yeah, sometimes, but like other times
Yeah.
when do get to pitch, it's like a half-ass presentation because like I knew what the like I
Okay.
lost the sale already because like of how
Yeah.
competitive it is and like how much rapport is broken.
Well, how much sales are you losing right now because of that?
Um, I at least lost like two in like this last week that I can remember
Okay.
just off the top of my
Well, it's
head.
like at least two. Like again, like how much is it really? Like you can be real with me, dude.
Yeah, probably like three or like
Okay.
potentially even four, but I have to look back at the recordings.
Okay. Well, it's like if we take a look, so we've been in a week and a half. Like how many actual sales calls did we get?
In this last week, I had about 12 or so.
Okay. So we had 12.
Yeah,
And of those 12, how many did we close?
close one.
Just one?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. And how many of those 12 are actually closable? Because I'm sure there's just some that just, there's nothing we could do.
Yeah. I'd say like in the past week and a half, like 7, 8 were like closable.
Okay. So like let's say 8. So just this past like week and a half, just since we've been on this offer, we
Yeah.
lost 7 deals. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
You don't sound too sure.
Well, yeah, I mean like some of it's like a new offer, so like there's a bit of a
Yeah.
ramp up period. So,
No, and I can appreciate that. But if we tell ourselves like, hey, there's a ramp up period, like where is going to be the urgency to actually change anything?
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Why is it a good point?
Because yeah, like if I feel like it's like the excuse of like a ramp up period, I guess.
Yeah. Do you want to
So,
give yourself an excuse?
no.
Okay. So be real
Kind
with me,
of.
dude.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like we lost 7 deals. Like,
Hmm.
would
Yeah.
you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. What is a deal actually worth to you? I'm sure it varies, but it's like
Hmm.
ballpark. What does a deal actually bring in commission wise?
Typically like $300.
Okay. So it's like $300 per deal. Okay.
Yeah.
So for times 7 times 300. So just this past week and a half, we lost 2,100. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you see that you're leaving that money on the table, Again, I'm not in your shoes. But how does that actually feel?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like on some level, like I'm just kind of bouncing around from like offer to offer,
Yeah. What
and
do you mean
like
bouncing around?
well, like even before this, like
Yeah.
I was on a couple offers in like
Okay.
January and like February that didn't fully work out. So I'm
Okay.
like, I'm still trying to build up my commissions on like an
Okay.
actual proper role.
What's causing you to have to jump from role to role?
It's just like some of the offers like didn't
Mhm.
didn't really work out. Like it wasn't what I thought it was when I got in.
Okay. What do you mean wasn't what you thought it was?
Like for one offer, they just weren't getting as many calls on my calendar as I thought they would
Okay.
be.
Yeah.
For another one, just like everyone was kind of like broke on the offer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. And do you feel like if you had the skill level where you can close a majority of people that you're talking to, you would have to jump from offer to offer to offer?
I'm like, no, maybe not.
Why not?
Oh, well, like if I could close like the people who like I was talking
Yeah.
to, like I could probably make like a good amount of money in the first couple weeks.
Okay. So it's like, be real with me, man. The fact that you've had to jump from offer to offer to offer, leaving this money on the table, at least over 2,000. Like, how does that actually feel?
Yeah, like it kind of fucking sucks because
In what way?
yeah, because um like I'm gonna be moving out soon,
Yeah.
so like I need all of the like just cash I can spare because I don't even know what my living expenses are gonna be in like a few months. So
Yeah. So is it something that you're willing to like settle for, having to keep on jumping from offer to offer to offer because we don't have the skill set?
no, like I don't really want to be like one of those reps who like offer hops, you know.
Yeah. Why don't you want to be one of those reps? Because you could be. Most are.
Because like most of them like they don't have like a stable income and
Yeah.
like yeah, like they're just yeah, like their income's like all over the place.
Yeah. But besides just wanting a stable income, I guess like what's the main reason you'd be looking for, I don't know, like outside help to actually help you streamline this process so you can actually make more rather than just continue to hope and pray, you figure all this stuff out on your own.
Well, cause like I don't really have like a bunch of guidance when it comes to my current
Uh-huh.
offer. Like I'm the
Yeah.
first rep on their team, and
Uh-huh.
the CEO is always busy. Like he's in a different time zone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to just kind of like trial
Okay.
and error.
Okay. And for you, maybe let's have a better understanding. What does a stable income actually look like? That would make
So
it
like I'm
worth it
in
for you. Mhm.
yeah, like I'm in Canada, so the conversion
Mhm.
rate from USD to Canadian is funny,
Yeah, it's pretty
but
shit, right?
um, I'd say like 5K USD would be a pretty good stable income.
Okay.
Just that I could probably live off
Well,
myself and
are
like a
we
student
are we just
apartment.
shooting for something that's just pretty good, or like what are we actually looking to make?
Well, I mean like my dad makes like 8K a month Canadian,
Yeah.
and like he's doing pretty good with that.
Yeah, and
So
I can definitely appreciate like, your dad makes that amount. Can I make a suggestion on that?
yeah,
So like, I make what my dad makes in a year in a month, right? I'm not saying that to like poo-poo my dad. Like I love my dad,
yeah.
but do I want to compare myself to him when it comes to the income I'm looking to make?
Nah, I guess not.
Why not?
Well, cause like yeah, like my goals are my goals.
Yeah. So be real with me,
And
dude. Like, okay, 5K, it's pretty good, but do we want to shoot for pretty good? Or do we actually want to hit some real numbers?
no, the real number that like I would want to hit is probably like 15K in like the
Okay.
next few months. Like I feel like
And
that's a
I
good milestone to
and I
where
appreciate you want to hit that, but do you need to hit that?
yeah, like I definitely probably need to.
Why? Why is it a need for you?
Well, cause like just especially like being in sales, I feel like
Hmm.
especially when like talking about like my job when it comes to family,
Hmm.
it's like it's kind of like looked down upon, even
Yeah.
though I make more money than like some of my family.
Uh-huh.
So if I can really hit like those 15K, like I feel like that really like I don't want to say shut them up, but like a little bit shut them up. You know what I mean?
No, it's good, man. No, it's like I can definitely appreciate where you're coming from. I was in a very similar spot.
All right, so next we have understanding buying decisions. So understand something. If we just wait to the very end of the sales conversation in order to actually get somebody to buy, we're going to have a hard time, because the longer somebody goes into the conversation, the longer they are in the conversation, and the more that they act in a certain way, the more confident they're going to be in that way of thinking. Understand, objections are just limiting beliefs. They're beliefs that people have that stop them from moving forward. And you can think about beliefs like a table, okay? So this is my makeshift table here. I got 4 legs, not super great. I'm not an artist, right? Like the artist from Germany. I'm not an artist. But the longer you go on in the conversation, and the more somebody reinforces their way of thinking, the more they talk about it, the more they reinforce their limiting beliefs, the stronger these things are going to be, right? The stronger these legs are going to be, because they'll get more and more confident in this way of thinking. For example, if I'm talking to you a certain way and I'm being disrespectful, okay? If you do not say something to me and I get more and more confident being disrespectful, I'm just going to probably get more and more disrespectful. Now, it's not that these people are being disrespectful, but people think by talking. And if they're talking to somebody else and they keep on reinforcing their limiting beliefs, they're going to be much stronger at the very end of the sales call. So you're going to have a much harder time actually overcoming them. So what we need to do in our actual discovery process is let's take out a couple of the legs. Right? Let's take out a couple of the legs, right? And that way, when we have objection handling, we just got one leg here, or we got fucking no legs and we have no objections. And that way we just get rid of objections altogether. So that is the main focus of understanding buying decisions and pre-handling objections. Now, we want to be doing this during the entire conversation, but the understanding buying decisions section, this is where we really focus on it. Now, why do we need to understand buying decisions of their past? Because the best predictor of future decisions are past decisions. Okay, so you want to dig into past decisions that they have made and eliminate any beliefs, limiting beliefs that have prevented them from moving forward. And only for advance, we want to create a behavioral or identity gap that causes them to want to create more urgency to become the person who they are. Okay, so we created a gap on their situation. We also want to create a gap on their identity, selling to their identity. Why do we want to be able to create a gap selling to their identity? Is because it is the highest leverage that you can reach when it comes to moving someone's behavior. If you don't know what this is the NLP pyramid. Okay, so NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. This is what most all of sales is built upon. This is what all persuasion is built upon, is neuro-linguistic programming. And most salespeople, they focus on the skills, they focus on the behaviors. Now, once we get advanced, right, that's when we'll really start to dial in beliefs and shifting beliefs. That's what we're going to be talking about. But when we get the most advanced and we want to be closing like 90+% of the people we're talking to, that's when we're really diving into identity. It's going to be the highest leverage that you can use. Because if I shift somebody's identity, right, if I shift their identity, their beliefs are going to change, their skills are going to change, and their behavior is going to change, and their environment is going to change, all to make sure it matches up with the identity. The biggest force in human behavior is want to stay consistent with how we view ourselves. That's a quote from Tony Robbins. So in order to get somebody to move at the highest level and overwhelmingly close everyone you talk to, sell to identity. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. Okay. But first, let's get the basics. So first, let's focus on how do we actually shift beliefs. Once we really get good at shifting beliefs, then we can get good at shifting identity. Okay. So the very first thing you always want to ask is like, hey, before we started talking today, what have you been doing about actually going out and getting your goal? Why do we want to ask that? Because again, best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So you want to know, what have they been doing about getting their goal? Most people haven't done anything, but if they have done something, why didn't it work? And why are they looking for something else? You just need to understand, if they haven't looked, why haven't they looked? Find a belief that's holding them back, attach it to a cost, and ask them if they want to hold on to that belief or not. Okay. If they looked at something, but they didn't take action, why not? What actually held them back? So a lot of what you're focusing on is, why haven't they taken action? And we need to get good at turning external reasons, things that are outside of themselves, internally. For example, if they're like, hey, what held you back from doing anything in the past? Or like, oh, I just didn't have the money. Not having the money is an external reason. What's in your bank account is an external reason. The internal thing is, why haven't we gotten resourceful? Right? Why haven't we gotten resourceful to get the fucking money? That's an internal thing. So we need to turn the external internal. So instead of saying like, oh, why didn't you have the money? It's like, hey, why haven't we gotten resourceful in the past 10 years? Next thing when it comes to time, time is also something that's external. Why have we not made the time to go ahead and go and get the resources to do everything? Like, why haven't we made the time? Again, take external, turn it internal. The economy, again, why, there are people out there in this economy that are still getting the results. What's prevented us? Why haven't we done it? Again, internal. We're talking about another thing that'll come up. Oh, I didn't know this was a thing. Motherfucker, you have access to Google. Right? So it's like they have access to more information than any human has ever had in the history of forever, right? So there is no excuse for them not to go out and actually try something. And if they've been doing research, why haven't they given anything a try? Because the only way they're going to know anything has worked for them is if they actually have given it a try. So again, the biggest thing here, if they blame the external, we get it to focus internally. Then once we get them to focus internally, we need to get them to admit that that way of thinking has cost them to stay where they're at right now. So it's, hey, could you see how limiting belief has caused you to be where you're at right now? Are you okay with me saying that? Well, if you had to attach a cost to it, what do you feel like that's actually cost you in the past 5 years? Sit there, do the math. So get them to admit that this limiting belief is holding them back, and then get them to do the math. And then once you get them to do the math, they're like, hey, so is this way of thinking worth keeping moving forward? No. Why is it not? Again, I need to get them to double down. Asking why is super important, because I need to get them to double down. Once they take a step in my direction, if they double down on it, they're more likely to actually hold this belief themselves. Again, everything I say is garbage. Everything they say is gospel. So I need to get them to actually explain why. Okay? Why for them? Okay? So that's how we're going to do it. That's how we're going to shift the belief. Now, if we really dive into identity, once we get better at actually doing that, we're going to get into identity. Now, why is it powerful? Like I said before, it gets to the heart of the matter. The entire sales call is who they are, how they've been showing up. So do not do this if you do not have confidence or conviction, especially when you're talking about somebody's identity. You can't get more personal than that. So if you are pussyfooting around, you don't have conviction, you're not going to have a good time, okay? So we just need to create a gap of who they are now versus who they want to become. And the easiest way to go ahead and bridge into that, I bridge into it basically the same way every single time. I always, after I tie off the belief, okay, why is it not okay to hold on to that belief? Then I bridge into this. Okay, and the reason why I ask is because if you give somebody the perfect diet plan in the world, but they don't have the right mentality to use it, like what type of results do you get? Exactly. So yes, it's about getting the skills, but more importantly, it's about being a better person. Because if you're the guy who makes 20K per month, I'm telling you, you walk that. You get what I'm saying? I've never had anybody ever disagree with these things. Right? But right now, you're the guy who makes 5K per month with problem. Is that right? So what am I doing there? I'm creating a distance and separation between the 5K per month version and the 20K per month version. And I am getting them to double down and understand, and I'm widening this gap and making this much more painful. Okay? So that way they have more urgency to run towards this, right? So I'm creating the identity gap there. So if you want to see this in live action, I'm going to show you a call here where I pre-handle limiting beliefs. I tie it up in identity, and yeah, dive into it.
Before we started talking today, have you been out there trying to actually learn how to get these systems up in place so you can actually make that additional 60,000 per month, or what have you been doing on that front?
Like we've tried Facebook ads in the past. We just never
Okay.
got the right ROI from it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in terms of those Facebook ads, like, would you just go in there, like, try it by yourself? Did you learn from somebody? Like, what was the whole story behind that?
no, we had like an ads agency that came in and like
Okay.
we tried to like do something with it, but I just
So it
wasn't
wasn't
able to-
actually like you running it though.
No.
Oh, okay. No, it makes sense. So what's preventing you from going out and actually getting the skill set, knowing how to run the ads yourself? Because I'm sure, if you run them, you know your business better than some agency, right? So what's prevented you from
Yeah.
actually getting the skills so you can run these ads yourself so you can actually make them effective?
I'd say it's just the time, like running, like just creating content all day. Like it's just the time.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Like what do you mean by time though?
Well, like I'm like creating my organic content all day, and then I just
Uh-huh.
had a baby, so like
Yeah,
that's been
congrats,
like
dude.
super time consuming.
Yeah. Can,
Yeah, just life.
can I share a perspective?
Yeah,
Congrats on the baby, by the way.
appreciate it.
Yeah, but I mean, but we work with, quite a few different coaches who are already at like the 50, 60, 100K plus. And again, all through organic, like really have a lot of things they have on their plate. But they're really able to like just make the time to get an actual predictable process in place again so they could scale. Um, so what do you feel like's actually prevented you from actually, I guess, like making the time so you can get something more predictable in place?
Well, I mean, like it's like I just had a kid, right? So like
Yeah.
it's been like
And
seven
again,
months of just like
and I
up and
can
down.
appreciate that. But again, we work with a lot of people, have tons of babies, right? So what do you feel like's prevented you
Yeah.
from actually going out and making the time though?
I don't know, like it's hard to make the time. You know what I mean? Like it's just been my
Yeah.
schedule's been so packed. Like my calendar, like if I screen share
Yeah.
right now, like my calendar's just been back to back to
Can,
back to back.
can I
And even when I'm
can
not
I
back to
be
back,
can I
like
be a
it's hard.
little bit direct with you without you getting upset at me?
Yeah, go for it.
Is scaling your business and growing and making tons more money, like, dude, is it supposed to be easy?
Uh, I mean, like depends, right?
Right. But is it supposed to be easy?
Well, no, I guess not.
Okay. So it's like, be real with me, dude. Like, I'm in your corner. Like, I've been there before. What's actually prevented you from doing the hard thing? And I'm not going to take away from you. It is hard of actually making the time for you in the business.
Um, yeah, like it's just like you said, like it's been hard to make that time. Like
Yeah.
I know, like I should make the time to like
Yeah.
do like my income, like
Mhm.
just more business related activities.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like stuck in that like loop.
Yeah. And I get it, man. But like we've been in this spot for 4 years and I only assume, right? But you can correct me if I'm wrong. As time goes on, are we going to have more or less time?
Yeah, less time.
Right. So where do you feel like this belief actually comes from? Just knowing it's hard to make the time, but being in pain for his past 4 years, like not actually having something predictable in the business. So you never actually making the time to get it in place so you can actually grow the business and get your time back.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So where do you feel like that comes from?
I don't know. Like it's just everything's been like changing, so it's just like keeping
Yeah.
up with my business.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that, man. But you thinking that way, that it's just too hard to make the time. Like, what do you feel like this actually cost you in the past 4 years?
Um, yeah, just probably like time.
Okay. But it's like, yes, time. But when you're talking about getting something predictable into the business, like what else has it cost you?
Like what do you mean?
Like, what else has it cost you? You not having a predictable process in place to actually generate clients.
Yeah, like just probably like you said, like we're not signing clients, so it's
Yeah,
gonna cost a couple of those.
probably, right? Do you want to do the math on it?
Sure.
Like, so I know it said right now, like we're leaving about 60 on the table. Let's even be conservative. Let's cut it in half. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's fair? Like we're leaving
Sure.
like $30,000 on the table each month. Okay.
Yeah.
So we take 30,000 and then we multiply that by 12, right? It's 12 months in a year and then times four. So we left $1.4 million on the table these past 4 years because we didn't want to make the time. Um, does that number sound right?
Um. Yeah. Yeah. Like. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be rough, dude. Um, so I guess is that way of thinking that we don't have the time, given that what it's costing us over $1 million, is that way of thinking worth keeping moving forward?
Well, I'm like, no, obviously not.
Well, it's not so obvious, right? Like that's why we're here. So help me understand, man. Why isn't it?
Well, the math you just did, like, it's pretty solid numbers. So,
Yeah. Well, for you, like why isn't it okay to like continuing to leave that money on the table?
well, cause like I don't want to miss out on like
Yeah.
over $1 million going forward. So yeah,
Yeah.
my math was pretty good.
And And I can appreciate where you're coming from, man. Because like, and the only reason I even bring this up is like, yes, it's having the skills, but it's also being the person who we need to be. Because you can give somebody the perfect diet plan in the world, but if they don't have the right mentality to actually use it, like, what type of results are they going to get?
Yeah, like pretty shit results.
Yeah, right. So if you're that person who goes from, we're making over 80,000 per month, right? If we add additional 60 on what we do, right? We're that seven figure business owner. You know what I mean? Like you have a different level of confidence when you can put seven figure business owner in front of your name. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just right now, we're the guy who's unpredictable and stuck below 25K per month. Like, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I have to ask, man, like, are you okay continuing to be that person? Because if you are, I'm the first one to tell you, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like 20K, like not like a bad living, right?
Yeah. And it's again, like,
Like,
it's not bad, but it always comes down to who do you compare yourself to? So if we're
like
comparing
what?
ourselves to a seven figure business owner who we could be, like, are you okay continuing to be the person who we have been, who's stuck below 20,000 per month or 25,000 per month?
Well, I mean, like it would be okay, but like I definitely would like want to get to the next level. So like you
Yeah.
said, like have that
And
confidence, right?
and
Like
I
seven
can I can
figure next to
appreciate
your
like we
name.
want to do it, but in order to be that seven figure business owner, do you feel like it has to be a need?
Like, what do you mean?
Well, do you know the difference between a want and a need?
No.
Well, like a want is if it's convenient, I'll do it. A need is I'll do whatever it takes. In order to be a seven figure business owner, do you feel like it's going to be convenient?
Uh, probably not.
Why not?
Well, cause like you probably like most people aren't seven figure business owners, so probably gonna have to do some things that other people aren't.
Yeah. So it just comes down to, are you willing to make that a need? That you need to be that seven figure earner so we actually get there.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Why?
Well, cause like I want to get there, right? Or I need to
Yeah.
get there.
What? Yeah, I get it, man. But in order for us to understand that we need to, the first step we need to take is it's no longer being okay the person we have been that's been holding us back from getting there. So be real with me. Are you okay staying that same person who you have been that's kept you under $25,000 per month?
Well, I mean, like ideally, I'd like to be, the seven figure business owner. So
Yeah. So
that's
are you
that's the
okay
goal.
staying the person who you have been then?
No.
Okay. But in order to actually grow out of that person who we have been, we got to let some things die off just naturally. So, what do you need to let go of to actually become that seven figure business owner?
Um, I'm not really sure.
Well, if you thought about it, man,
I don't know, just maybe like relying on the organic, I guess.
I mean, has it gotten us to where we want to be so far?
Well, like it's got me to the point where like I'm making 20K,
Yeah.
which like
Can, can I share
so
perspective on that?
yeah.
Is the same thought process that got Elon Musk to his first $1 million the same thought process and actions he took that got him to 100 billion?
Well, no.
Right. Like, why would it be different?
Well, because you can't make the same type of decisions.
Yeah. So why would we expect the same thing that we have been doing that's kept us stuck to get different results?
Yeah, I mean like that's a good point.
I'm not making a point. I'm asking, like, why would we expect that?
Yeah, I mean like I could like double down on the organic,
Hmm.
but just like the amount of time it take to actually build up that brand awareness would
Yeah.
take a while. And I know like scaling
Yeah.
the paid ads, like it's probably faster.
Yeah. So be real with me, man. Like, what do you actually need to let go of in order to step into being that seven figure guy? Because it's not going to be easy. And I'll be the first one to tell you it.
Yeah. Probably just need to let go of like doing purely organic.
Yeah. Well, that's a tactic, right? What are the characteristics?
Like what do you mean characteristics?
Do you feel like we have to let go of the thought that we don't have the time?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Are we going to have to have the ability to take risk?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I guess like if I don't make the time, like I'm never gonna have the time. So
Yeah. So it just comes down to, man, what if you never make the time? What if we keep on telling ourselves we're okay with where we're at and we never actually become that seven-figure business owner and we stay at $25,000 for the rest of your life?
yeah, I mean, I would just be like it would be comfy, but
Hmm.
like it wouldn't be like I'd know like there's more out there.
Okay. Well, why are you not okay with just being the guy who's just comfortable?
Well, cause like I know there's more out there.
Okay. But again, like there's always going to be that allure out there, just no matter what you do. So why are you not okay staying the same? Why are you not okay just being comfortable?
Well, like I know like this can become like a seven-figure business.
Yeah.
So it's just like getting it to
And
that point.
if you continue to fall short of your potential for the rest of your life, dude, like be real with me. Like how's that going to feel?
Well, see, I don't think I'm gonna fall short like for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Like I got a lot
Yeah,
of
but we have for the
ahead of me.
past 4 years.
Damn, yeah, true.
So be real with me, dude. Because like again, I want to see you win, but the first step in order to actually get us to run as fast as we can is we have to admit that where we're at is not okay. So what if that continues for another year, another 2 years, another 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, like I just stay like ordinary.
Okay. And what is the day-to-day life of you being ordinary?
It's just making 20K a month in revenue, which is like
Yeah.
10 in profit,
Yeah.
and like I know like there's so
Mhm.
much more out there, especially for like the niche that I'm in.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I don't want that to
let's talk
happen.
about it, man.
All right. So next we have future pace. Now, why is future pace important? Okay. There needs to be something that the prospect is running towards. Why? They're going to have to do something uncharacteristic. So it has to be worth it. Like that person who has a big enough why can overcome anyhow, right? Like that's the mentality here. So people are motivated by two things: moving towards pleasure and running away from pain. It's best to do both. So understand when we are talking about future pacing, the tone that we really want here is we want to be very curious and extra open. So understand, especially when it comes to tone, it's the shift in tone that is the most important. So during the future pace, I am going to sound the most interested. Why? Because I need them to be the most open. So if I am like this the entire call, where I'm just like, oh, what's going on? Hey, how's it going? Right? Why that? Why this? Why that? Right? If I'm really like just super, super interested. Right? No matter what, like it doesn't mean anything. That's just how I am. I you know what I mean? So I want to be that when I am in future pace. So if you look at any of my calls, and I'll show you an example, every time I future pace, I move my mic forward, I lean forward, and I talk more like in the top of my throat. Right. So that way, I just seem like more like I'm interested in what they have to say. I'm a bit more open. So if you understand like how I'm speaking now is how I generally speak during a sales call. I'm talking from my diaphragm. Again, I need to sound confident. I need to sound authoritative. But when I'm talking in future pace, I'm going to be a little bit more attentive. Why? Because I need to get the specific numbers out of them. I need to get the specific goals, and I need to make it real in their mind. I need to turn their story into numbers, turn their story and numbers into pictures and moments. I am Bob Ross over here painting pictures in people's minds, right? So you need to become Bob Ross painting pictures in people's minds so you can make some fucking sales, okay? So how do we actually do this? We need to be able to get to a goal. Once we have a goal, we need to understand what that goal actually does for them. So the easiest question to ask is, you being able to do goal, what difference does that make for you? And then you just need to probe on that, right? You need to probe and you need to get specifics. Just like we were talking about before, it's the actual specific instances, the moments in time that really causes people to run away from pain. It's the same thing when it comes to actual like running towards something. The specifics. For example, if you're talking to me and I'm like, yeah, man, I want to make more money so I can buy a car. Okay. That's a decent goal. That's an okay goal. But if you knew, oh, I want to make more money so I can buy a Porsche 911 that's like pure matte black and has these specific rims, blah, 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 blah. Like that's much more real. It's much more tangible. I'm going to run so much quicker towards that because it's real. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to get. We need to get specifics. Oh, why that? Where would you go? Where would you go if they're wanting to travel? Oh, where would you go? Why there? Taking anyone with you or just going by yourself? Right? If they want a car, why a car? What car? What color? right? If they want a house, why a house? Any specific area? Specific rooms? Specific, like color? Like what? Like paint me a picture, man. Like what do we actually want in here? Okay. And then from there, after we get the more specifics out of them, we want to go, okay, and you being able to do that, what would that do for you personally? So what we're getting here, because in future pace, we need tangible, right? We need real things. Okay, we need real tangible things. All right, if I can spell. And then we need the emotion behind it. We need both. We need tangibles. That's what this is. You being able to get goal, or you being able to do this. What can you do then that you can't do now? Or what difference would it actually make for you? And then from there, we need the emotion. Like, okay, after you get the specifics, what does that actually do for you personally? Why? Because people make decisions based off emotion, but you need the specifics to get the real emotion. You need both. You need this, you need the real stuff, and you need the emotion. You need both. And then after that, that's when you become Bob fucking Ross over here. That's when you want to go ahead and paint a picture. So why do we paint a picture? We want them to actually visualize what it looks like. If they can visualize what it looks like, the likelihood that they're going to run towards it is so much more. So if you really had to picture it, you paint a scene. You driving off the car lot with the blacked out Aston Martin DB12, windows down, wind in your hair, sun in your face. Like at that moment, like how does that feel? So if you notice, especially with the tone, you slow down and you're actually visualizing a little bit in your head. People will mirror what you do. So if you look up, they'll look up. They'll actually visualize it. You know you're doing this right if people actually look up and they visualize what you're actually painting out to them. Okay? And if you use sensory language, windows down, wind in your hair, sun on your face, this makes it much more real. So I would say, driving a car off a lot, stepping into a house, something along those lines, having a conversation with your significant other, wife, parents, whatever it is. Like let's say they want to retire their parents, right? You being able to tell your mom she no longer has to work. You've seen that look on her face. How would that feel, right? Like it's very specific. They're going to have that image in their head. They're going to want to run towards it. And why we also want to get to specific moments in time, just understand it's the specific moments that we do everything for. You can think about this in your own life. You're never going to be happier than when you first get something. I can talk about, for me, for example, when I was first getting into sales, I wanted to make money, have the freedom. And one of the biggest things is I wanted like a fast fucking sports car, right? So when I got my Jaguar, the happiest I was when I got my Jaguar is the first few days, right? The first few days when I would just like hit on the gas pedal and just take off, right? Like just, right? It's a totally different experience. So that was when I felt the happiest. So if you wanted to paint that picture in my head, you would paint that picture of like, hey man, you really pressing on the accelerator, feeling that torque, wind like just going through your hair, man. Like at that moment, like how'd that feel? Like that's when I'm going to feel the best. So that's what's going to make people run. And I can even think about it now for like what I want like in the future, right? It's like, okay, I need to buy a house in Scottsdale. It's going to be at least 2.5 million for what I want. And when am I going to be happiest about it? When I first walk in the fucking home with my wife, with our child, or maybe by that time 2 children, we'll see how it goes. That's when I'm going to feel the happiest. Then after that, it just kind of becomes your house, right? Or it just becomes your car, whatever it is. It's not like it doesn't bring you enjoyment, but it doesn't bring you as much enjoyment. Like when I felt the richest ever is when I made like my first 10K per month, right? Because it was so different. And it's like now if I made 10K per month, right? Like first of all, I'd be freaking out like I was talking about before, but it's like, it's when you first do something, that's when, if you paint a picture, somebody will run towards it as quick as possible. That's where all the emotion is. And you can think about this for yourself too. Okay. Now, some difficulties people can have when they're trying to future pace, especially with A-type personalities, is people don't want to tell you things because they don't know why you're fucking asking. So how do we actually make sure we don't run into this issue? If you do run into this issue a lot where people are like, oh, I don't want to tell you, bro. Okay. We need to start to pre-frame your future pace. How do we pre-framing it? Okay. If you get pushback, typically it's because the prospect just needs more context on why you're asking, because the tone isn't up to the level where it needs to be to not get pushback. So again, pre-framing is a shortcut. If you have really great tone, you don't need a pre-frame. So generally speaking, the pre-frame that I will use, the easiest one to do is like, hey, at the end of the day, money is just a vehicle. It depends on where it's taking us. So for you, you being able to get to 20,000 per month, what difference does that actually make for you, right? That's how I'm going to ask it. Or you can ask something like this, right? This is the Usain Bolt analogy or the runner analogy. This is something I got from Matt Ryder. Okay, so if you put somebody on a 100-meter line and you tell them to run, I'm sure they'll run fast. But if you put a gold medal on the line, think they'll run faster? Of course, because they have something to run for. And it's not because the medal is gold. It's what the gold medal actually represents. So for you, what actual difference would that make for you to be able to hit 20,000 per month? Again, then you ask the question. Now, you can also use personal stories. Normally, I would use personal stories going into consequence, and I'll go over exactly how we go ahead and do that next. But let me share with you an actual future pace on how to get this stuff. Let's dive into it.
Interesting thing. As far as like making that transition, like, is it going to be comfortable?
Hell no.
Right. So it's like, we got to make that goal that we're shooting for, we got to make it worth it. Because if we're shooting just for comfortable goals, like, what do we end up going to get?
Same thing.
Yeah. So be real with me. Not just the goals you want to say out loud, but what do you actually want to make, like, each and every month if you had the right skills?
If I can make like 30 grand.
Okay. Why 30?
I mean, that'd be almost doubling the money I'm making now.
Yeah.
I'd have the time freedom. I could continue to invest and still maintain like the lifestyle I want to live.
100%, man. So if you really had to sit and think about it, besides investing, because we all know we need to reinvest, money at the end of the day is just a vehicle. So you being able to double your income and have the time freedom, what difference would that actually make for you?
Hell, I might actually be able to travel.
Oh, how so?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, right now the only travel I get is when I'm going from site to site.
Yeah.
So to actually be able to travel and see the world, I mean, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Is there any place specific you'd want to go?
Iceland would be really cool.
Oh, that's an interesting one. It's the first time I've heard that. Why Iceland?
I mean, me and my girlfriend have wanted to go out there for years. Just beautiful place. I've heard they got like black sand out there.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a pretty cool place.
Yeah. Is there a certain like town or certain like tourist destination in Iceland, or what's going on?
There's no final destination yet, but it's definitely on the bucket list of where to hit.
No, I get it, man. Yeah, traveling is definitely an interesting one. So, where do you feel like that drive to travel comes from, or like, why is that so important to you?
Well, I mean, on my girlfriend's side, her family's never traveled just because they haven't
Yeah.
had the financial opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And as a kid, my family and I, we would do that, but
Yeah.
kind of died off in later years.
Yeah. So you really been able to provide for you a better lifestyle, but also like your girlfriend as well.
Hmm.
Okay. So you being able to provide just on a different level, but also have that time freedom, can go to Iceland. Because like, what does that do for you, like, personally?
I mean, like it would make me feel good.
Yeah. How so?
Yeah, I mean, like being able to actually just hop on a plane and go wherever we want, whenever we want. It's a pretty damn good feeling, I can imagine.
No, I get it, man. Because if you sat and you thought about it for a second, like, you sitting there, you're in Iceland, you're with your girl, black sand beach, and just, you got no worries. You can actually relax. At that moment, like, how would that feel?
Probably dude, yeah. Like I can't even put that in words. That just feel amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last part of the process is going to be consequence. So consequence is when you're going to be more concerned and challenging. Now, why do we want to be concerned and challenging? Is because if they stay where they're at right now, they're gonna have a bad time, right? They're gonna be, frowny faces over here, right? Not have a good time, right? If you don't do that, right? If you pizza when you're supposed to French fry, you're not gonna have a good time, okay? So they're not gonna have a good time if they stay where they're at. No bueno. Okay, so you need to get them to actually realize that. And that's why we need cost of inaction. This is going to be one of the biggest drivers that get people to move. This needs to actually hurt. When you're asking consequence questions, what happens if they don't do anything? You're not looking for a specific answer. You're looking for a specific emotion. Okay, there's been one call I can think of where I asked a consequence question and the guy just like teared up and he just like underneath his breath, he's just like, it's not going to be good, right? That is a good answer. Now, I've also had other people give me very elaborate consequences, but they're saying it like they're like speaking at like an interview or something. Well, if I don't do anything, I'm going to fucking die. It's like, whoa, like there's no emotion behind it. So it's like, I understand it's not a good answer. So we're really looking for emotion behind the consequence. Now, in terms of actually getting the consequence, right, getting them like to actually admit what would happen if nothing did change to create as much urgency as possible, especially if you're really good at future pacing, you're going to want a two-step consequence. Because if you build this big crescendo of like painting the picture and then you try to rip it away, people want to hold on to it. They don't want to give it to you. So what I'll do is I'll two-step it. So how do I two-step it? I'm going to ask this question first. So I have to ask, if nothing changes in area, whatever it is that you're selling, how likely is it that you're going to be able to get goal in time frame? Why not? Now, you always want to ask it that specific way. How likely would you be able to get goal in time frame? That way, again, very specific question gets a very specific outcome. For example, if you're hopping on with me and you're wanting to make $30,000 per month in the next 6 months, if you don't do anything about your sales, how likely are you going to be able to make $30,000 per month in the next 6 months? Not likely. Why isn't it likely? And then once we get them to admit that it's not likely, that's when we can ask a more straightforward consequence question and get better answers. And again, this needs to be customized to the person you're talking to. Okay? So once you get like, oh, it's not likely, why not? So then what happens like if nothing changes then? Like 3 or 6 months go by and you're stuck in problem and you don't get emotional outcome. Right? So what happens if nothing changes? 6 months go by, you're still not making the type of money you need to be making in sales, and you can't tell your wife that she no longer has to work. Like, what actually happens then? Again, it's very specific to the person that I'm talking to. Okay? Now, same thing with future pace. If you're getting pushback, pre-frame it. Right? So if you use the runner analogy up top, you can use this analogy too to pre-frame it, or you can just use this analogy by itself. So you're going to say something like this before you actually ask the consequence question. Hey, I appreciate you being real with me. And now that we know like what your gold medal is or like what you're running towards, but if you take a person and you put them on a 100-meter line and they're running for their gold, they'll run fast. But if there's a lion or tiger behind them, do you think they'll run faster? Everyone says yes, of course. That's because that's how human beings work. So for you, what's your lion or tiger? Like, what happens if nothing changes? You don't improve in your sales, and God forbid you can't tell your wife or she no longer has to work. Like, what happens, man? Like, what's that tiger, right? This analogy clicks in their head of like why you're asking it, right? Like, they need to run away from something. That's the key thing here, okay? Now, what I generally do, I don't generally pre-frame it. I generally use a personal story. Now, this is going to be more advanced. You want to have your entire sales process down before you start using personal stories, but it is a great way to open yourself up emotionally, pre-handle objections, and shape answers to get better consequences. So I will show you on the call recording how I actually do it. And there, if you go on my YouTube, there's another video where it's like, I think it's like 30 minutes of me going over how to craft your own personal story. Okay, so you can go a lot more in depth on that. But the biggest thing is we just need to make sure we're getting good consequences. Now, some things that might get pushback is if they say, hey, oh, I won't let that happen. We always need to double down. Anytime we get resistance in our process, we double down. Why do we double down? Because if we don't double down, guess what happens to our fucking authority, right? Our authority goes out the window. No bueno, no good. No good on the authority if we do not double down on what we're doing. So anytime we get resistance, we need to make sure we're doubling down. Now, we need to double down in a tactful way. We don't want to be domineering, but we need to double down. Okay? So if somebody says, oh, I won't let that happen, we need to double down. It's like, hey, man, and I'm not questioning your willingness. Again, I'm putting it to the side. We're doing this tactfully. But if we never let the tiger out of the cage, we'll never run fast enough. Ask again in a different way. If they say, oh, I'm not really sure what would happen. Well, if you really thought about it. Now, again, this is something you can use during your entire conversation. If they're like, oh, I'm unsure. Well, if you were unsure, right? What would the answer be? Okay. Again, you can use that during your entire sales conversation. Now, something that you will get from time to time is people will say, oh, like, oh, well, if I don't do anything, I'll just find something else. It's like, okay, well, do you feel like that might be part of the problem? Well, if you look at, right, like get them to answer. Well, if you look at everyone who's truly successful in life, like, did they have an option B? For example, now, again, I'm not actually allowing them to answer this question. So I'm using that question to open it up, and then I'm using an analogy that's going to be very hard to disagree with. For example, do you know the phrase where the burn the boats comes from? Right? And I'll let them answer that. It's from when the Spanish came to the Americas. When they first landed, okay, and they were going to take on the Aztecs, they were outnumbered 10-1. Okay? So what the leader of the army did is he burned the boats behind them. Why? Because if he knew if any of the soldiers had an option B in their mind of going back to their boats, there's no way they were going to win. So he burned the boats, and because of that, they won. Do you see how that works? So would you be willing to burn the boats? Why? And then re-ask the question. Okay? After we get a good consequence, then we're going to get a commitment to change. Again, I'm going to push back. I'm going to ask why. Why? Again, everything I say, absolute garbage. Everything they say, absolute gospel. I need them to dig down deeper into the actual process. So once we get a good consequence, like, hey, are you going to allow that to happen? Well, why not? Well, why do this now? Why not push this off until next year, right? Like other people might. I need to push back. I need them to dig down deeper. And then after I do that, I transition into the pitch. Now, once I transition into the pitch, my conviction is high, and I am not neutral. Okay, conviction is high, authority is even higher than what it was before. Once you actually know their situation, you do not need to be neutral. Okay, you need to have conviction and authority. You want to eliminate any ambiguity in their mind, any doubt that they have that you can actually help them. Now, the reason why you want to ask to go ahead and pitch is it makes them more compliant and makes them more open to what you're about to say. So they're going to say something like, okay, well, based off what you're telling me, man, like that's what I need to hear, because based off of ABC situation, what we're doing would work for you 100%. So if it would help, I can go through exactly what we do and how it's structured and how we can get you to ABC goal. Would that help you? Yes, go into the pitch.
But with what you're currently doing now, which is a skill set you do have, what's the likelihood you're going to be able to get those keys and take that drive?
Unless I go into crazy debt, not close at all.
Why not?
Just because I don't have the skill set to actually make that, like to make the
Yeah.
20 grand to do that.
Yeah, dude. And I can definitely appreciate that, man. Can I share a quick story?
Yeah.
Because I would say I see a lot of myself like 5 years ago and like where you're at now.
Yeah.
A lot of the same, like, I wanted the nice things. I really wanted things like I was running towards. And it pushed me, and it'll push you so far.
Yeah.
But for me, it wasn't until I had to sit and take a look at what I was running away from that really kicked it into that next gear, that made it to where like it became a need rather than just a want. Because for me, like I grew up in a small town, right? So it's like I'm definitely scared of being average. Like it scares the fuck out of me. And I had to have the conversation with myself that if you don't take action, if you don't do everything in your power possible to make as much money as you need to, then you're going to have the same pain that your dad had in his voice every time as a kid he told you you couldn't have something. Or you're going to have the pain that he still has to this day of all the risk he should have took, but he didn't. And you'll have regret. So I got to ask you, man, if we don't do anything about this, if we keep on being the person we have been, holding on to this fear, a month, 3 months, 12 months down the line, like what's going to happen?
Nothing good. I mean, nothing's gonna change. I won't get better, right?
Yeah. But again, lots of people stay the same. For you, what would be the day-to-day ramifications a year from now? We continue to hold on to this fear and be that 6,000 per month guy.
Probably regret,
Okay.
like not taking action like sooner to actually
What-
fix that.
What does regret look like for you?
I mean, like how it looks, I feel like I can't see it, but it's like a feeling, like that gut feeling, like ugh, like
And are you willing to allow that regret to come up?
no,
Okay. Why not?
I don't want to feel that feeling.
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, we don't sell magic pills.
Right.
It's really about drawing a line in the sand and committing like, hey, I'm going to do whatever it takes so I never feel that regret. Is that something you're willing to do?
Yeah.
But why now though? Like why not be that guy who's just like new year, new me? We just kick it down the road because you could.
I mean, I could, but it's at the end of the day, if like I just continue kicking it down the road, it's like that person who always starts their diet on Monday. It's like they comes
Yeah.
Monday and they never start.
Yeah. You don't want to be that guy, do you? Okay.
Never.
It's time to make a change then, dude.
100%.
Because I mean, based off what you're telling me, especially when you're talking about actually learning the skills to build urgency and not fall into the trap of falling into objections,
Yeah.
what we're doing would definitely work for what you're looking for. So if I help, I can take you through exactly like how that process works and how we can get you
Yeah.
20,000 per month. Like would that help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Now, if you want me to do something on the presentation, let me know in the comments, but that is the structure as a whole. If you noticed, again, we start off broad, we get deeper and deeper, we get narrow and narrow as we go through, but understand, authority is upmost, conversationality is also going to be upmost on our actual sales conversation. And if you want me to actually work with you one-on-one to build out your actual sales process, that way you know the ins and outs of it for what you're selling specifically, check out the first link in the description. If not, hopefully this has been helpful. Leave your biggest takeaway in the comments, and I will see you guys on the next video.